part is to combine psychology with EFT, to be able to have the insight to know what might be behind what is going on here, and to direct that person in that, and see the various aspects of that. And we'll discuss that after the break. Any questions about the video that you saw? Not how to do EFT, I'm going to explain that after the break, but what you heard. Any questions?
I took your CD, thank you.
Yeah, and I have a DVD also, which helps that, yeah.
For example, for insomnia, so how you do with yourself?
You will do for the insomnia itself. You say, even though I have insomnia, I have difficulty sleeping, I love and accept myself, and you tap for the difficulty in sleeping. But then you would also look for the issues that are preventing you from letting go. Because basically, not sleeping is not letting go. Okay? So what am I afraid of letting go of? Okay? And so the fear of letting go, the fear of surrendering all awareness of the environment. You should work on these issues and anything that might be bothering in the subconscious. Now, there is a DVD there. It's this DVD here. It says EFT. Actually, it's about 4 hours. It's how to do EFT. And it's a special section at the end, another hour, EFT for trauma victims. I know that you have a lot of earthquakes here in Turkey. And this would be a very good thing to go to the earthquake victims and help them overcome the trauma. I sent it specifically to the people after the traumatic events of the Hurricane Katrina in America, and also the tsunami in Indonesia. I sent it for them to see how they can use that on the people after the traumatic experience. I didn't bring a lot, but if someone can make copies, I don't care. You can make copies and give them anywhere you want. I ask no copyrights, okay? Make copies and give them to people. And it's the best way to help someone understand, rather than sitting there for an hour or two explaining it. Any other questions? You have any questions about what you're going to eat today at the restaurant? I have no idea. Okay, break. How much time do you want? But I need to know the time and to keep the time. You can say 3 hours, I don't care. But
You don't know if for the part eating here or outside. Outside.
she has ordered at this restaurant, which is about a 5-minute walk from here. They're waiting for you there.
Let's say it's 1 hour.
Is 1 hour enough, or you want an...
Let's meet 2:30.
It's 1:22. 2:30?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. On page 10, okay, which is Saturday afternoon, and we're continuing, what some of the healthcare practitioners around the world say about EFT. I think most of you know Deepak Chopra. Huh? Quite know it. It says EFT offers great healing benefits. Another doctor, Eric Robbins, says, I frequently use EFT for my patients with great results. Someday the medical profession will wake up and realize that unresolved emotional issues are the main cause of 85% of all illnesses. When they do, EFT be one of their primary healing tools, as it is for me. Another doctor, Curtis Steele in Canada, says EFT has been for me the single most effective technique I've used in my 45 years of practice as a psychiatrist. I've had great success with panic, social anxiety, and many other disorders. Okay? And you can read these in your free time. There's no need for me to read these to you. So we see that there are literally thousands of doctors and psychiatrists and all kinds of health professionals that are using EFT today to help people, and of course to help themselves. So you can turn and go to page 11, And here you will see the kinds of things we can use EFT for. This is actually the table of contents from my book on EFT. Okay? So what is EFT? We won't look into that. But starting with number 9 is what we can use it for. Overcoming fear. It's the number one choice is EFT for fear. Have you heard the story about how EFT was discovered? Gary Craig's teacher, Roger Callahan, was a psychiatrist, and he would help people. He was specializing in anxiety and panic attacks. And he had a woman who had panic attacks anytime she saw water. And so she would come to his house. He had a swimming pool, and they would sit about 100 meters from the pool, and she would be sweating in this panic attack. And he was seeing her for about 1 year, and the only thing that he says, the only result that they had was that she was able to withstand the pain. But no, the pain didn't diminish. She just could withstand more pain, that's all. And when she saw the water, it was just horrible for her. And having done a seminar some months earlier about the acupuncture meridians, she said that, Callan had done the seminar. She said, I have this pain in my abdomen. I'm so fearful, my stomach hurts, which is natural when we feel fear. And he said, well, tap here. Now this is the end point for the stomach meridian. So that she, if tapped here, maybe this would cause her stomach to stop feeling the pain. And then she said, after about 10 taps, she said, it's gone. And he thought she meant the pain, but she meant the fear. 1 year of psychoanalysis at $150 a shot. And just by tapping 10 times on her cheek, the fear was gone. He was amazed. And it didn't come back. It didn't come back. So he started doing EFT. He didn't call it EFT, he calls it TFT, thought field, thought field therapy. And so he called it TFT, and it's a little more complicated than EFT. You have to do arm testing. You have to check the strength of the arm as you test the points, and you have to create an individual, unique system for each person. And we'll get to that in a moment. And then he went bankrupt because patients that were paying him $150 a week for years were getting cured in one session. And so he started doing the seminars and charging a lot of money for the seminars, which I followed one time with him. So it really works. Now Gary Craig followed the seminars, and Callan was charging a lot of money, up to $100,000 for some of the things, because he got addicted to the money, I guess. He didn't do a TFT on that. And so Gary found that he could just create this protocol, not do the arm testing, and everyone could do it on themselves. And then for about 5 years, there was this great debate between the TFT people and the EFT people, until the right-hand woman of Callahan said, well, I'm going to test out this EFT thing and see if I get the same results as when I do the arm testing and the creation of the specific series of tapping. And she came out with an email that just destroyed the whole thing. She said, you get the same results. So you get the same results just by doing this protocol, by tapping on these specific points, and you really don't need to go through this whole process of arm testing and checking out what points we need to tap on. And so that blew the whole thing open, and you saw Gary Craig, he was not interested in the money. He would do I did a 4-day seminar with him in Arizona for $75. Okay, the hotel was separate, the room was separate. But what I mean is he really got into spreading this out there because he felt that people needed this. And it's so simple. You teach it, the person can learn it, they can go home, and they can do it. Okay, and especially if they have a DVD or something like that, they can learn it easily. So what can we use it on? Fear, health issues, and I explain how to use it on health issues. Addictions, it's used for addictions. For smoking, coffee, heroin, any kind of addiction. For achieving goals, we can do EFT on anything that is obstructing us. And there's a certain way, and I explain that in the book. For self-esteem, okay? Now let me explain how we use EFT for self-esteem. The self-esteem issue is like this table. This is just not wanting to work during the seminar. Keep stopping. Okay, so this is the level of our self-esteem, okay? Low or high. And let's say actually it's the obstruction to our self-esteem. It's our self-rejection. Now we don't say even though I reject myself, I love and accept myself. What we do is we work on the legs of the table. What are the legs of the table? All of the experiences that I have had which are supporting the idea that I'm unworthy. Okay, so that we gather all the events, maybe 10 events, the father's behavior, the mother's behavior, specific experiences with a teacher, being rejected by peers, whatever that may have been in the childhood. And these are all the legs of the table. And what we do, we start doing EFT for the causes of the lack of self-esteem until we discharge the emotional charge around each of these events. The whole idea is the person needs to be able to remember these events with no emotional charge. It's as if it happened to someone else. It happened. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I didn't say my father didn't abuse me or my mother didn't criticize me, but it just has no meaning anymore. It has no charge. Now what we're doing here is we're working with the energy aspect of the belief. Each belief has two aspects. It has the cognitive aspect, the idea, and there's the energy aspect. So what we have done, and what most of you have done, is you have clarified the cognitive aspect. You don't believe anymore that you're not worthy, but the emotional and the energy aspect is still there. It's like an energy conditioning. I am conditioned to feel in a certain way when someone raises their voice, or when someone makes a negative comment towards me, or when I don't succeed at some effort, okay? And it's an automatic reaction which has nothing to do with what I actually consciously believe. It's the energy remainder of this programming. So what we're doing now is, in addition to changing the belief, which was our previous work this morning, finding the beliefs and changing them, now we work on the energy aspect of the belief. And what we're doing is we're discharging the emotional charge around these events. And then one leg goes, and another leg goes. And what Gary has created is the theory of the generalization theory, which says that if we have 100 experiences, and this is important for you to understand, that are contributing to our self-doubt, and we discharge 10 of them, the rest of them just fall. Okay? Say I have one, because when I teach EFT to someone, they say they usually work generally. And I say, you can't work generally, you have to work specifically. A specific event, a specific situation. But there's thousands. I don't care if there are thousands. You have to work with a specific one. And every time you work with a specific event, that becomes discharged, that undermines the others. And when you get to a certain point, the critical mass, for example, it just disappears. All those other things, because they are similar, and they have similar roots, just don't seem to be important anymore. That my father or my mother or my teacher or my brother or whoever it was did these things, okay, it's like that happened to someone else. They don't have the emotional charge. And in this way, we work with self-esteem, we work with loving others. There are all kinds of issues. So we continue the list here. Opening to love. You can use EFT to be able to open to love people more easily. We can use it to aid the process of forgiveness. It's very efficient for romantic rejection. That is when we feel rejected by a love partner. The first two applications of EFT were for fear and panic and what Dr. Callahan called love pain. Love pain means losing a loved one either by rejection or by death. Now, you have to be reasonable about this, because if someone has lost a loved one, they will not want to feel good in the beginning. We have to respect that. Okay, I don't ever try to do EFT on someone. I let about 3 months go by. I said, I could teach you a technique now, but are you ready to feel okay? Or would you feel guilty about feeling okay? You see, because we have this whole idea. And the other thing is, if I feel okay immediately and don't let these emotions out, it's possible that they would stay in. Okay, so we focus on the emotion, but for a divorce or something like that, or a separation, you could do it immediately if you're ready. I mean, you're going to get over it in a few months anyway. Why not get over it today? Why suffer 2 months? I mean, you're going to get over it, and then you'll pick somebody else, and then you'll say, oh, I can't live without this person. And then you'll get over that. And it's just a big illusion that our happiness was really dependent on somebody else. And the problem is that the more addicted we are to someone, the less we can enjoy them. I mean, it's because, we're always afraid, well, maybe they're not interested, maybe I'm not enough, maybe they will leave me, maybe they will die. So addiction prevents us from enjoying what we are addicted to. I remember one woman who came to me about 30 years ago. She said, I went to an astrologer, and the astrologer told me that my husband is going to leave me in 7 years. First of all, I cursed the astrologer because nobody knows these things. It's all a field of possibilities. Nothing is sure in astrology, and nothing is sure in the world. But that made her so insecure that she pushed him away within 1 year. She was, where were you and what were you doing? And she was checking his wallet, and she pushed him away. Through her fear of him leaving. She was so anxious, and her behavior was so suppressive that he couldn't take it. So attachment creates fear. Fear creates the need to control, and the need to control just pushes people away. No one likes to be controlled, and to be questioned continuously, and to be asked, what were you doing, and where were you, and all that. Okay. So EFT and romantic rejection. Coping with the departure of a loved one, it's very useful. EFT and codependency. When we are you understand the word codependency? When my happiness depends on the other person, and the other person's happiness depends on me, and for me to be happy, I have to fix the other person. And usually we get into these roles of the strong one and the weak one, or the problematic one and the savior, the one who's going to save the problematic one. And the savior is addicted to being the savior, as the problematic one is addicted to being the problematic one. And it's just hell, nothing positive. And it usually happens between people and their loved ones who are addicted to alcohol or to some kind of substance. So codependency is one of the problems of our relationships. And then EFT and dealing with people that are playing the role of the victim, with aloof people, interrogators, intimidators. These are all the roles from the Celestine prophecy, which describe quite well how we communicate. That's a whole other seminar, if you like, someday. And then EFT and the obstacles to communication, our fear of communicating, our fear of expressing needs, the fear of rejection, the fear of conflict, the fear of the other person not responding enough and my feeling unimportant to that person. So there are all kinds of fears around communicating honestly and openly. We can use EFT for that. And the obstacles towards harmonious love relationships. And of course, a big employment of EFT is for childhood experiences. And what would happen if you decide to use EFT and you're working on yourself or on somebody else, you will very quickly move from working on an issue of the present to an issue of the past, which is the cause of that. So you're working, for example, with someone with the feeling of rejection or fear of abandonment from their spouse, and you realize that this is nothing more than a recreation of something that happened in their childhood. So you have to go back and work on the childhood experience and discharge that. Okay? And then inner conflicts and EFT and finding our life purpose. We can also use it for clearing thoughts, for meditation and prayer, and for our own impending release from the physical body. You know that you're all going to leave your physical body, right? You're aware of that fact? Hmm? We're all going to leave here. We're just visitors. None of us are actually from here. Okay? And I think that it's very important to be reconciled with that and overcome the fear of death. When we overcome two fears, our life becomes very beautiful. The fear of death and the fear of rejection. If we analyze all of our fears, they will lead us to that. Okay, why am I afraid of microbes, or dogs, or heights, or fire? Basically, because I'm afraid of death. And why am I afraid of what people will say? I'm afraid of rejection. So these are our two major fears. We do a whole seminar on fear, in which we start working with each type of fear. And EFT is a major technique in overcoming fear. Okay, any questions to hear about the EFT?
How many times we should do for one subject?
We do the EFT for a subject until we feel clear or we get tired. And so we continue another day. Now, almost always, the emotional charge is reduced. Now, whether it's reduced totally or from 10 to 2 or 10 to 5, it could not go all the way to 0, okay, the emotional charge. Sometimes that's permanent, and sometimes it's not, and we need to do it again. Now, when it's not permanent, what is the reason it's not permanent? There may be a deeper issue from the past that we need to work with, because that's the roots, and as long as the root is there, it's going to create more branches. Okay? So we need to discover a previous issue. Another reason it may come back is that we were working on the wrong emotion. We were working on anger, but we didn't work on the pain that was creating the anger. So it's always preferable to work on the emotions of weakness. For example, the pain, the betrayal, the fear, the guilt behind the anger. Okay? So that's the second reason. A third reason is what we call, what Dr. Callahan has coined the frame, psychological reversal, which is like psychological self-sabotage, which means that I don't want to be free. We mentioned that earlier about the victim. The victim could be tapping away for his feeling of injustice, but he doesn't want to let go of it. So we call this psychological reversal. And so there may be a part of me that doesn't want to let go of the emotion. In which case, I will then need to do EFT on the psychological reversal. Even though I'm afraid to let go of my injustice, I love and accept myself when I choose to let go of the feeling of injustice. So we now direct the EFT towards the resistance that person has to letting go of injustice or anger or guilt. I remember one woman at a seminar said, we were doing EFT, and she was working with her guilt about her children. And she said, you know, if I let go of this guilt, I'm going to feel guilty. Okay. Because a good person would feel guilty. And so if I don't feel guilty, I'll be guilty of not feeling guilty. You get that? There is a resistance. There's a part of ourselves that is not ready to let go of some of these emotions. So we do EFT for the resistance. Okay? And one last possible reason is what Dr. Callahan called energy toxins, which are not exactly allergies or food toxins. Each person, he says, has specific substances which may interfere with their energy field and obstruct the correction of the energy field. Now, most of us have not found this to play a large role. I have not found it to play a large role. I think because he himself had many allergies, he created this idea. Gary Craig didn't find it to be very important either. But there may be 1 in 100 where this is an issue, and what do? You tell them, okay, no perfumes. That's one of the main energy blockers, and no perfumes. Try avoiding white sugar and white flour and detergents and some soaps. Okay, it says try avoiding these 4 things: white sugar, white flour, detergents, or anything that has, you know, these chemical aromas in them, or perfumes, and try doing it again. One thing he suggests is take a shower and do it naked. So you have nothing. You have no clothing, you have no detergents, you know. I haven't found it to be very important. But there was one woman who I worked with who wouldn't let go of her negative feelings towards her co-workers at work. And then I asked her about her diet, because she should have gotten free by now. And I asked her, and we suggested that maybe sugar was the problem here. And we did a thing on the sugar to free her from her reaction, that reaction to the sugar. You can also use EFT for allergies. Okay? Because what is an allergy? It's a misperception. The subconscious is seeing this as an attack. The pollen, the cat hairs, the wheat, the food, is seeing it as a form of danger. And what's it doing? It's creating mucus, and it's sneezing, and it's creating this reaction so that this won't come into the body. It's a self-protective mechanism, is the allergy. Okay? So what we do is we put that substance, or we think about that substance, and we do EFT on this fear of that substance, the subconscious fear of that substance. And it works quite well. I remember one young woman, 11 years old, her mother did it because she couldn't get from here to there with a cat. She did it 10 minutes, and the girl picked up the cat and had no reaction whatsoever. Okay, so it's very good also for allergies and food allergies. But you should be careful if someone has a lethal kind of allergy to something. Any kind of allergy can respond.
And migraine?
Yeah, definitely for migraine, especially to the degree that the migraine is a function of emotional charge.
Because I'm suffering deadly migraine every other day.
No, you should do EFT every day that you have a migraine. And as soon as you feel it coming on, especially, do it for the migraine. But then also we have an exercise in which you ask the migraine how it is created. It's a relaxation process. And you imagine your migraine, okay, so how did you get created? What are your causes? And that may bring up images from the past, it may bring up emotions, it may bring up certain people, because you need to find the specific event or situation or emotion which is contributing to it. And when you find that, then you do EFT for that. Okay? Anyway, there's a whole chapter on how to work with health issues. Okay, any other questions?
What about the childhood? If you want to work with your childhood, but if there is something that you don't remember?
By doing it on the present, on the situation of the present which is bothering you, the energy moves and the memories come forth. It's important to understand that EFT doesn't bypass the process of understanding. What it does is it brings to the surface the deeper causes. It just, what happened in months of analysis happens in 20 minutes. Because suddenly, it's not that, it's guilt. It's not anger. And it happens so quickly because the tapping and the movement of the energy brings up the deeper emotions and brings up the memories. I remember I was doing with one woman, and she said, I'm afraid to be happy. So we did a little bit of EFT on that, and what came up? That I said, okay, remember the times when happiness turned to unhappiness. And she told me two small stories. One story was, well, I was playing in the garden with my doll, and my father came out, and he was angry, and he took my doll, and he broke it, and he threw it away. Okay, so she was happy, and suddenly, happiness became unhappiness. So this created an association. When I am happy, something is going to happen. This is why we always go, everything is going well. Because we have this belief that if I accept that I am happy, something bad is going to happen. Okay? So often we have to do EFT for the fear of happiness. It's actually one of the main fears. Fear of happiness. We try to control things, not to get too happy.
That's correct.
Because something's going to happen. Okay? Okay, so move to the next page, and we see the image for the tapping process. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is slightly different than this, because both Gary has developed the process and I have developed the process somehow differently, which is equally effective and simpler. So, how do we do EFT? Okay? First of all, we choose the emotion that we want to heal. And we focus on the emotion, and we focus on the stimulus. Okay?
Give an example to be more specific.
Okay.
I'm not very clear about the stimulus.
Okay. Would you like to give us an example of an emotion
Emotion,
that you've been having lately?
loneliness,
Okay. And what is the stimulus for the loneliness? That you don't have a...
you mean the reason behind it?
What?
Is that the stimulus?
Yeah. No, the reason behind it is the belief that you are alone. But when does that sense of loneliness come more to the surface?
When I have miscommunication with my parents.
Okay. Okay. So it's the specific stimulus here is, and even the miscommunication is too general. I want you to say exactly what you said and what they did and what they said. Can you bring something even more specific to your mind? That they ignore you, that they disagree with you, that they reject you, that they give you advice, that they don't do what you think they should do.
They don't
Okay. And so you
Is
feel...
that more specific?
That's specific. Now, specifically, what do they not do?
Excuse me?
And specifically, what do they do not do that you want them to do?
They sent me the stuff that I wanted them to keep.
Okay. So they sent you some stuff, and you didn't want them to send you that stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're getting specific, okay? Oh, okay, this is very good. I'm glad you said rejection. Is rejection the stimulus? No, it's the interpretation. The stimulus is the sending of the stuff.
Is that the stimulus?
That's the stimulus, the sending of the stuff. And this is why you need, because when you clarify this for yourselves and the other person, you're already making it ridiculous. The sending of the stuff.
Exactly.
Who cares? How could I give so much importance to the sending of the stuff? Okay?
But I didn't feel stupid then.
That's what I'm trying to say. This is why you need to be specific, because you could say the stimulus is rejection. It's not rejection.
So it's the photograph of the situation.
Exactly. That's a good choice. The photograph of the situation. Very nice. Okay? So
I missed
that I haven't... If you took a movie, the only thing you could say is they're sending the stuff. That you're interpreting this as rejection,
Yes.
or as not listening to you, or not caring about what you want, is your own interpretation. It's the result of it's your beliefs. If I tell someone to do something and they don't do that, that is rejection. It's like me saying to you, who smokes here? If you love me, you won't smoke. Now, can I assume that because you continue smoking, you don't love me?
No, of course not.
But I could easily make that assumption. I remember one woman that came to the class and said, my subject today is that my son doesn't love me. Okay, what is the stimulus? He doesn't want to become a doctor. These are assumptions. But he doesn't love me. If he loved me, he would become a doctor. Do you understand? So we have to be very careful. And I think we're beginning to understand today what is the difference between a stimulus and an interpretation of a stimulus. Okay? I mean, people live according to their needs, and we often take it very personally that they don't listen to us. But it's not that they don't care about us. They're just more controlled by their needs. Like the smoking. I took the smoking, which is an extreme example. Someone just can't do that like that. You know, and you might say to your relationship partner, listen to me when I'm talking to you. Or tell me what you're feeling. But men have great difficulty with this. They don't like to talk about their emotions. They don't even know what their emotions are. You know, and they cover them up. And they don't like to show them. So that would show weakness. And they have less need to talk. And even less need to listen. Okay? So I said, he doesn't love me, but it's not true. He says, well, I show my love by helping you, by supporting you, by being with you. You understand what I'm saying? So these are interpretations. We imagine what is going on in the other person. Okay? And then we take it personally, and we create our own hurt in these situations. Okay? So we need to be this specific, exactly what happened. And I know that you will forget this, and I know that, but this is the main problem.
So what is this stimulus? I'm just repeating my
They
question.
sent the stuff back.
That is the stimulus.
That's the stimulus.
It sounds stupid.
It really. and this is why becoming...
I should go back and apologize then.
Exactly. And look, that would have been cleared by the first exercise that we did today, the active listening. If you did the active listening correctly, your questions would lead you to that. And that, in this case, because it's not a serious thing, would have dissolved. But you could have done the same thing and got to the specific event. My mother is telling me how to raise my children. Or my father abused me, or something like that. And even when you realize that consciously, it doesn't seem silly. Okay? And so we need to do the EFT now, because it doesn't seem silly. this abuse or whatever happened. Okay. Okay, so we focus on the stimulus. We have two things in our minds now. The very specific stimulus and the emotion that I have. And I could have a number of emotions. Which emotion should I choose? If I have pain and betrayal and injustice and anger and rage, what should I choose?
Pain.
The pain, usually. Or whatever is more intense. We could start with anger, if that's more intense. So whatever is more intense, or whatever is the deepest emotion, okay? And then what do? We close our eyes, we bring the event to our minds, and we see what we feel when we think of that event or situation. It could be something in the future. Any of you have fear of public speaking? And if you need to do public speaking, okay, one of the big fears, okay? If you have something coming up that you need to do, that you fear, you will bring the future to your mind. And you'll see what you fear about this future event. If you have a meeting.
So
With-
that's the stimulus.
The stimulus is the thought of this meeting that I have. Okay, and if that generates any fear or anxiety, then I do it about the anxiety or the fear of this meeting, whatever that may be. For example, if you have done some medical tests and you fear the outcome of these medical tests, and somehow our mind can affect the medical tests in a way. So the more calm I am, so I do anxiety about that, okay? Anxiety about your children's success at school or at work, okay? It could be anything in the past, present, or the future. And what do? I evaluate how intense it is from 0 to 10. 10 means it's really intense, and 0 means it's gone. And anywhere in between. Okay, now I've got my number. That's the first step. The second step is to remove the psychological reversal, which means the resistance towards the change. We rub here, this sore spot. It's actually where the lymph glands are. And we don't caress it. We take the skin and remove the skin over the muscles. Okay? And as we do this, we say, even though I feel, and we say the emotion, about, and we say, or because, about or because, whatever it may be, and we say the stimulus, I love and accept myself. And we do that 3 times. In all forms of energy psychology, the acceptance of the emotion and the acceptance of myself with the emotion is the first step. It's very important. Okay? So we do that 3 times. Then we go over to the other side, and we rub the other side, and we say, I want to be free from this, and we say the emotion, about or in relationship to, and I say the stimulus. Okay?
We tap like this?
No, we're not doing tapping yet. We're rubbing. Okay? This is the removal of psychological reversal. I can say, I want to be free. I choose to be free. I deserve to be free. And it's in my benefit to be free. Anything, you can use any verb that you like. Okay. Now that we have done the setup. This is the setup. Okay, we have established the emotion and the stimulus. I accept and love myself even though I feel this way, and I choose to be free. These are the 2 prerequisites. Acceptance, but also acceptance of letting it go. And you'll understand this more deeply when we do tomorrow the Sedona method, also a very beautiful method, about letting go of emotions. Okay? Now we do the tapping procedure. The tapping procedure is to change our energy condition while we're focused on it. So during the duration of the tapping, usually I have our eyes closed and I'm imagining this stimulus. Okay? I'm imagining what's happening. And we do this tapping like this. All of the fingers here, all 5 fingers of both hands on the top of the head. This is a very important energy point. But at the same time, what are we doing? We are energizing the points that are on the fingers also, because there are also points on the fingers. So we do that, and we do the alternate tapping. Alternate tapping is actually from another method called EMDR. Anyone heard of that, EMDR? Okay. Very useful also, but it's much more cumbersome, and someone can't do it on themselves. So we do that, and so we're tapping alternately, then we come forward, and then we do this with 2 fingers at the eyebrows, where the eyebrows meet the nose, the bridge of the nose. And we tap alternatively there. And we're focusing on the emotion and on the stimulus. And then we come to the sides of the eyes, the temples, alternatively. And then the cheekbones. Okay, important point here. And then the top and the lower lip, above the upper lip and below the lower lip. And then under the arms, here, another important point, the kidney point. And then on what we call the collarbone. That is, the collarbone is the highest bone, just underneath it, and to the right and left of the sternum. Yeah. With 2 fingers. Okay. And then the last point, hitting the 2 hands at what we call the karate point, here. Okay? Now that's 1 series of tapping. What we're going to do is 3 series of tappings. And what we're doing is we're focusing on the stimulus, we're changing the energy condition in relationship to that, so that we have a different energy structure. We're breaking up this old crystallized energy reaction towards what is happening, okay? And then we balance it with the following technique. You see the 2 knuckles here. We tap between the 2 knuckles, and we do this series of movements. Eyes down to the right, eyes down to the left. A big circle with the eyes in one direction, a big circle with the eyes in the other direction, and then we do alternatively humming and counting and humming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why do we? The humming could be any song. You could hum the Turkish national anthem if you like. It's just a what between the singing energizes the right side of the brain, and the counting energizes the left side of the brain. The movement of the eyes does the same. What we're doing is we're balancing the energy. So we start off with the removal of psychological reversal. We move on to changing the energy structure in relationship to that stimulus, and then we balance it. And that's 1 completed round of EFT. Then we close our eyes again and evaluate where we are. Did the emotion go up? Did it go down? Is it the same? Is it disappeared? Did it change to another emotion? And then we do our second round based on what emotion we find. Now, if it's the same emotion but lower, we change the phraseology and we say, even though I have a remainder of pain or anger, and I accept and love myself, and I want to be free from this remaining pain or remaining guilt or remaining anger. Why do we do that? Because the subconscious may say, okay, we can let go of some of the pain, but not all of it, or not all of the guilt, or all of the anger. And this is why we direct ourselves to whatever is remaining. Let me say this remaining emotion, okay? And then we keep doing that again and again until we find that the emotional charge has disappeared. Usually that happens within 2 to 5 repetitions. If it doesn't happen, then leave it for today. Try it again tomorrow. Think about what I said, some previous experiences. A different kind of emotion may be involved here. Maybe there's a part of you that doesn't want to get free. Think of these positive, possible obstructions. Okay? Now we're going to do it now. Do you have any questions before we try it?
How do you know we are tapping or finding the right place? Is there a right place?
I will watch you, and I will tell you.
How many times do we have to tap?
Each time, about 7 to 10 times. Okay? You can also do it for a physical pain. Anyone having a headache now? Try doing it for your headache.
Okay.
Huh?
I have a backache.
You have a backache. Try doing it for your backache. And just focus on that. Even though I have this backache, I love and accept myself. I choose to be free from this backache. You have a headache now?
No.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Okay, any other questions? You could. I see that some of you are drowsy and you're like this. You can also do it for your tiredness. Okay.
You are also writing here some other physical diseases, like, other than headache, which is very common thing.
Yeah.
Constipation.
Yeah.
Or,
Anything that is caused.
Although I don't have it now, not now, like headache now. How can I judge that it works? Or
Well, for a physical problem, you would choose to work on it when you have the physical problem.
okay.
Now, if you have something like multiple sclerosis, as this man did, or anemia, something like that, then you could work on that because you can't measure that easily. You could work on it daily, and then see if you can also work on the emotions that may also be contributing to that. And also the emotions that we have because we have the problem. It's another level also. We have emotions that create our problems, and then we have emotions because we have the problem. For example, we have a cancer group. And so we work on the emotions that may have led to the cancer, but then also the emotions they will have because we have cancer. Both of them need to be worked on. Okay. So, are you ready to try this out? It will help you wake up a bit. Okay. So sit straight and close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Take a few minutes to take a few deep breaths. Deep inhalation, just hold a bit and then exhale. Okay, now focus on the issue you would like to work with. Could be something that happened, some anxiety you have about the future. It could be a physical problem also. And focus on it. It could be the issue that you wrote about earlier. And evaluate what your emotions are and how strong they are from 0 to 10. What is the emotion and how strong is it? Okay. Now you can open your eyes. Okay, how many of you found an emotion which is 10? Raise your hands. 9, 8, 7. Okay. So let's start. Rub in this area saying, mentally, don't say mentally. Even though I have this, say the emotion, because, and say the stimulus, I love and accept myself. Three times. 3 times we do that. We say this mental. Okay. And then we come over to the other side and say mentally, I choose to be free from this. And we mention the emotion and the stimulus. Or I deserve to be free, or it's in my benefit to be free. Okay. Now we'll start the tapping procedure with both hands on the top of the head, alternatively, with all of the fingers, and you're imagining your issue. You have your issue in your mind. Now come down and 2 fingers, right and left, at the eyebrows, where the eyebrows meet the bridge of the nose. Okay, now to the sides on the temple. You're just focusing, you're saying the name of the emotion or the pain. You repeat the name of the emotion. Now on the cheekbones, repeating the name of the emotion.
The emotion we feel.
Yeah, the emotion that you're working on. Or on the event. Now the upper lip, above the upper lip and below the lower. Okay, now under the arms. And the collarbone. Okay. And the sides of the hands. Okay, now both outside, that's it, okay. Each time at each point that we're tapping, you're remembering the emotion and the stimulus. Top of the head, we do it again 2 more times. Now come down, okay, to the eyebrows, and then to the temples, and to the cheekbones, and the lips. We're changing the energy flow. Under the arms, and the collarbone. Keep in mind the stimulus and the emotion. And the sides of the hands. Okay. Let's do it one more time. Top of the head. And then come down to the eyebrows. Think of your issue. Have your issue in mind. The temples. The cheekbones. The lips. Under the arms. And the collarbone. And the sides of the hands. Okay, now we're doing the balancing process. So tap the back of the hand between the last 2 knuckles. Look down to the right and down to the left. And make a big circle with your eyes in one direction and a big circle in the other direction. And then the humming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now close your eyes. Take a few breaths and focus on the issue that you chose. And see what you feel. And how much it is from 0 to 10. Okay. Now open your eyes again, and let's do it again, okay? So we rub here, saying, even though I have, and we, yeah, unless the issue disappeared. Even though I feel, and if it's a remainder, you say some remaining, whatever it may be, I love and accept myself. 3 times. And then on the other side, I choose to be free. I want to be free. And say the emotion and the issue. Okay. Now the tapping procedure, top of the head with both hands, all the fingers, changing the energy structure, getting the energy to move as we focus on the issue. Now come down to the eyebrows, focusing on the issue, and then the temples, and then the cheeks, focusing on the issue, and the lips, and then under the arms, and then at the collarbone, and that side of the hands. Okay? Top of the head, changing the energy structure while focusing on the issue. And then the eyebrows, and then the sides of the eyes, and then the cheeks, focusing on the issue, lips, under the arms, collarbone, sides of the hands. Let's do that one more time. Top of the head. Bring the issue to your mind. Have the issue in mind. The eyebrows, the temples,